Welcome to the campus of the Harris-Stowe State University, where in just a few moments you'll see these pews start to fill up inside this auditorium as we see the next chapter of the mayor's race unfold here before our eyes. In just a few moments, 4 candidates running in the primary on March 4. Tishaura Jones, Alderwoman Cara Spencer, Recorder of Deeds Michael Butler, and businessman Andrew Jones will all take the stage here behind me as a number of people will file in and start to ask them questions. Early voting starts in just a few days. Tuesday, February 18 is the start of early voting, and then after that it's the approval voting process, which kicks off. Only the top 2 candidates will emerge to that final runoff in April, and tonight we expect to hear a lot more about these candidates' positions, their visions for the future of St. Louis. So stay tuned here on 5 Plus or on our digital platforms, and you'll get to see a 2-hour-long discussion between the public and the candidates who would hope to lead them.
Hello, everyone. If you can all just get seated really quick, we're going to get this program started. We are very grateful for your time, and we would not want to waste it. I'm Darius Chapman, past president of 100 Black Men of Metropolitan St. Louis. Welcome to our candidates forum. I'm going to call our Collegiate 100 president, Cameron Thomas, to the stage at this time to do your welcome. Cameron.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, that sounded a little bit slow. I said, good evening, everybody. There we go. I'm Cameron Thomas. I am the president of the Collegiate 100 here for the 100 Black Men of Metropolitan St. Louis for the illustrious Harris-Stowe State University. It is my great honor to welcome you all here to the debate for the St. Louis City Mayor, an event that plays a vital role in the shaping of the future of our great city. Tonight, we gather as engaged citizens, eager to listen, question, and reflect on those visions and policies that we will guide the St. Louis forward. This debate is not just about political differences, it's about ideas, leadership, and the collective aspirations that we share here for a strong and more prosperous St. Louis. Our candidates have stepped forward to present their plans, and it is our responsibility as the voters to listen critically, engage thoughtfully, and make informed decisions. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed candidates who have dedicated themselves to public service and are here to share the vision of our city. A special thank you to our moderators, our panelists, and our organizers who have worked tirelessly to make this event possible. And of course, thank you to all of you, the city of St. Louis, the residents, the people, the students, those whose voices and votes will shape our city's future. As we begin, let us remember that the democracy thrives on a respectful discourse and an open-minded discussion. And tonight will be the opportunity to listen, learn, and engage in the civic process that makes our city strong. With that being said, let's get started. Best of luck to all the candidates, and may this debate bring us closer to the St. Louis we all envision. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, I like that participation. So my name is Jeremiah Hawthorne. I have the great pleasure of being the president of the 100 Black Men of Metropolitan St. Louis. It is an honor for me to be here today to welcome you all to the forum. Unlike this forum, this is very diverse, unlike the last ones. So I'm hoping that you all will hear a lot of critical thinking, a lot of just engagement. Please sign the QR code once it come on the screen and ask any questions that you have. And let's have fun tonight, you all. I would like to call up our president, Dr. LaTanya Smith, Holland Smith.
Good evening. All right, I heard y'all earlier and you were like, good evening. So good evening and welcome to Harris-Stowe State University. On behalf of Harris-Stowe State University, I am honored to welcome you to this important St. Louis Mayoral Candidate Forum, hosted in partnership with 100 Black Men of Metropolitan St. Louis and the 100 Black Men Collegiate 100. As a proud St. Louis native, I understand firsthand the significance of this moment and the responsibility we all share in shaping the future of our great city. At Harris-Stowe, we take great pride in serving as a hub for meaningful dialogue, civic engagement, and community empowerment. As the only historically Black college and university in the city of St. Louis, we have long understood the importance of advocacy, leadership, and informed decision-making, values that are the heart of tonight's event. Tonight, we will have the privilege of hearing from Mayor Tishaura Jones, Alderwoman Cara Spencer, Recorder of Deeds Michael Butler, and Mr. Andrew Jones Jr., as they share the vision for the future of St. Louis. This forum provides a vital opportunity for you, the voters, the students, the stakeholders, to ask questions, engage in discussion, and gain insight into the issues that directly impact our city and our daily lives. I want to extend my sincere gratitude to the 100 Black men of metropolitan St. Louis for their continued commitment to mentorship, leadership, and advocacy. Their dedication to uplifting and empowering our community is invaluable, and we are grateful for this partnership. To our candidates, thank you for your willingness to serve and for being here tonight to engage with the community. To our students and all of you, our community attendees, your presence here demonstrates the power of civic engagement and the role each of us play in shaping the future of St. Louis. I encourage you all to listen, ask questions, and most importantly, be an active participant in the democratic process. Your voice matters. Your vote, it matters. And events like this remind us that informed citizens make strong communities. Thank you again for being here tonight, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Harris-Stowe State University, the only HBCU in St. Louis. I look forward to a thoughtful and productive discussion. Thank you.
Now, I have the great pleasure of introducing our MC tonight. Our MC is Mark Maxwell. He is an Emmy-winning investigative journalism, political reporter, and a TV news anchor who covers politics, state government in St. Louis, Missouri, and Illinois. He hosts the political commentary known as The Record, which is featured on 5 on Your Side. He also reports on political issues that matters to you. We chose him to moderate this event because he is a leading political resource in our community. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mark Maxwell.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you. We're going to bring our candidates out right now, and I want to just say a quick thank you to each of you that came out looking to become more informed about this early primary, which begins just next Tuesday. Early voting starts before the Tuesday election begins on March 4th. But let's go ahead and bring our candidates out now. They'll start to take the stage. We have, I believe on the far side there is Alderwoman Cara Spencer, Recorder of Deeds Michael Butler there. I'll take the stage in the middle. Mayor Tishaura Jones, and businessman Andrew Jones, I think closest to me here, I believe. You'll see your names on the chairs there, and we'll jump in. All right, I should also, can you guys hear me okay? There we go. I also want to give a thank you to each of the candidates. You guys may not realize this, but it's quite something to put yourselves out there, offering your lives, your ideas, your vision for the future of the city to be examined closely, rigorously by all of us, and that's no easy task. So thank you for being here. We're going to start by offering each candidate 1 minute at the start of this to tell us a bit about their vision for the city of St. Louis. And if I can ask you each to also include in your answer what St. Louis can be at its best. What is the potential of our city? At the end of this forum, they'll each have 2 full minutes to recap their statements and make their closing pitch to you tonight as you leave, so you'll hear from them in their scripted remarks again. I'll also point out to each of you in the crowd that you can participate by offering your questions. There's a QR code you may have seen going around. If you're looking for a way to submit that answer, there are a number of people in the back who can also help you to do that. We'll have a way to review those questions and include your voices in this discussion tonight. But if I can, I'll start at my far right, your far left, with businessman Andrew Jones. You have a minute to give us a quick idea about who you are and what you bring to the city of St. Louis and what we can be at our best.
Hello, my name is Andrew Jones. I'd like to introduce myself to some, present myself to others, and I am running for mayor for the city of St. Louis because I'm concerned about the trajectory of our city and what challenges are there. I believe I am well qualified to be able to demonstrate that we can change this thing, but it needs someone who's dedicated and committed to changing. We have crime as the #1 issue for most residents in the city of St. Louis, followed by economic development, business development, workforce development, and we certainly are concerned about education. I'm submitting that I have a wellspring of information and experience to be able to change what is necessary to bring St. Louis to the fore. And St. Louis is absolutely wonderful because we have all the ways. We have the airways, the waterways, the highways, and the railways. We can demonstrate and utilize those absolute profits and those issues so that we can move the city forward, and I'm looking forward to serving you.
Mayor Jones?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Raise your hand if you've ever used a typewriter. Now raise your hand if you've ever used triplicate paper. Now raise your hand if you've used that in the last 3 years. Right. That's what I inherited when I became mayor of the city of St. Louis. When I became mayor, we were in crisis mode. Crime was at an all-time high. Our jail was literally on fire. We were in a hiring freeze and a whole host of other problems, but we immediately got to work. We got to work making St. Louis safer, healthier, and stronger because you deserve a city that exudes all of those qualities. Every morning when I kiss my son, or we do our little handshake, he doesn't let me kiss him anymore. When we do our little handshake and he goes to school, I think about the progress that we've made on crime. Since I became mayor, homicides are down 40%, youth-involved shootings are down 50%, and our emergency response times are 60% faster. That doesn't happen without doing the hard work with a capital W. And we want to continue moving St. Louis forward on this and many other issues, like economic development, like city services, like making sure that every family is safe, no matter who they love, how they worship, or any identity they hold. And so I look forward to having this conversation with you tonight to outline my vision for the city for the next 4 years so we can keep moving St. Louis forward. Thank you all for coming. God bless.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Mr. Butler.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Butler, and I'm running for mayor to make this city more fair for everyone. We can all think about the different times our city government has not been fair to every one of its citizens in the past years. And I think it's unfair that one kid gets to ride their bike around their neighborhood while another kid has to stay home because their neighborhood is unsafe. I think it's unfair that one couple has to walk past vacant housing in their neighborhood while another couple gets to look at property values go up in their neighborhood and walk past beautiful housing. I think it's unfair that an HBCU doesn't get fully funded by the state government and other parts of our region, universities, get fully funded by our state government. Our city can be much fair to its citizens and be much fair, and I'm the mayor, and the mayor that can make that happen. Now, I grew up in the city of St. Louis, and my dad used to have a line. He would tell me that life isn't fair. And when I was a kid, I devoted my life to public service because I got tired of him telling me that. Since then, I've been your recorder of deeds for the city of St. Louis for the past 6 years. I've been a state legislator for 6 years, and I was a leader in the Missouri Democratic Party as well as the Democratic Caucus. And I have a master's degree in public administration. I spent a third of my life in public service, serving you, trying to make this city more fair for everyone. And our city can be better. It can deliver its city services better. And I want to make sure that I'm providing you with services and results that you can feel. My vision for this city is that it'll be a city that everyone brags on, that we can finally leave town and everyone says how great it is, and when we get feedback from folks, they'll tell us the same. Thank you.
And Alderwoman Spencer.
Good evening. My name is Cara Spencer. I'm a lifelong St. Louisan. First in my family to go to college. I came in politics in an unusual trajectory, not having politics in my family. I ran for office for the first time in 2015 to help bring up my neighborhood, and I fell in love with public service. Why I'm running for mayor, my vision for the city of St. Louis looks like a city where our downtown is flourishing, where our riverfront is bustling. It also looks like a city where our citizens trust that the city has its back. A city where potholes get filled. A city where your trash gets picked up. A city where being incarcerated, waiting for trial, isn't a death sentence. A city that treats homelessness better than just putting up a fence around City Hall. A city where services are delivered on a regular basis. And if I'm elected mayor, I'm going to focus on rooting out the corruption in our city departments, putting the COVID money finally, after years of waiting, to use, investing in our communities, investing in our streets, and investing in the services that our citizens require and deserve. My vision for St. Louis looks like a city that's flourishing, a population loss that's turned around, and a city that is growing. A city that we know our city government has our back. And if I'm elected mayor, I'm going to put us on the path for growth. I'm going to put us on the path for faith and trust in city government and basic city services that finally work for our citizens.
All right, we're going to get into the questions part of this forum, the part everyone came here for. And candidates, if you're watching on stage in the front row, Darius Chapman here will raise his hand when you have 10 seconds left in your answer. That's the time we're going to ask you to conclude your remarks. Those of you who may be familiar with the great work of the 100 Black Men of Greater St. Louis may be familiar with a number of the different focuses that they have. They include education, health and wellness, economic development, and community engagement. So I'd like to ask the candidates to keep those categories, those pillars in mind as you answer these questions tonight. And we'll begin on the far right of the stage with Alderwoman Cara Spencer as we start talking about education. We know the mayor's office has no control, direct control, of the St. Louis public schools directly, but there are a number of parents in the area that have concerns about it. What has been the effect of TIFs and tax abatements in funding available for public schools so far, and how would that change if you were elected mayor?
Thanks for the question, Mark. Just as a point of clarification, do you want us to stay seated? We can keep getting up.
It's your stage.
It's my stage. It's our stage. Well, maybe we can have a conversation. I'll take a seat for this one. But, you know, TIFs and education is one of the critical needs a government, in a general sense, provides its citizens. I'm a mom. I have a 13-year-old son who goes to St. Louis public schools, and he's receiving an excellent education. That's not to say that our educational system here isn't challenged. It absolutely is. TIFs and tax abatements have a mixed bag of a result on our school district, in that when awarded, they result in a lack of taxes to our school district. So on the other end of the equation, incentivizing investments can result in an overall increased tax base. So there has to be a balanced approach. I'm very proud of my balanced approach to TIFs and tax incentives, curbing them back and really fighting back and making sure that we're using the but-for analysis and ensuring that when they are awarded, they do have a net benefit. And I think that the way to do that most effectively is working with our school district, our public school district, to ensure that that balanced approach is appreciated and is really respected by both ends of that. Okay.
That's the time there. Thank you. Recorder Butler, we'd like to ask you a similar question about education, but because we have seen public debate from Alderwoman Spencer and input from the mayor on the Rams money and the debate over whether or not to put any portion of that toward early childhood education or towards tuition, I wonder if you can chime in on how you would prioritize education in the Rams funding if you were elected mayor.
When I think about Rams funding, I've put out part of my plan is to support community schools programming and wraparound services for our students. I was a teacher in St. Louis Public Schools for some time, and I remember a young man named Isaiah who was leaving school at the same time I was. And Isaiah didn't leave out of the same door as all his other students. He left out the back door with me and the other teachers because Isaiah was getting in a taxi. And I remember asking one of the teachers, why is Isaiah and his little brother getting in a taxi? And they said it's because Isaiah has to take a taxi to a shelter in the county in order to, because he used to live in this neighborhood and he has to get back and forth to school, and the school district has to provide that for him. It broke my heart because Isaiah, I knew, had a tough day at school, and now he was probably gonna have a tough night. So wraparound services for our schools means providing a full-time social worker, a full-time nurse, and a full-time therapist to every low-income school, about 20 schools in our district, because our kids are dealing with some of the biggest mental health issues, physical health issues, and home life issues that we've ever seen. 30% of our students in SLPS, about 30%, deal with housing insecurity. Isaiah was one of them. About that same amount of students deal with food insecurity. The city government can surely help out with that.
Thank you. And Mayor Jones, I wonder, of course, feel free to weigh in on the TIF issue, but how committed are you to including early childhood or college tuition in that Rams bill, if it ever is to reach your desk?
Well, I was privileged enough to be able to be part of the negotiations with Alderwoman Saunier and President Green on the compromise bill that eventually made it to the floor. We didn't get all the way past to the finish line, but in that bill we included $30 million for early childhood for a tri-share program, which means that part is paid by the employee, part is paid by the employer, and part is paid by the city. We also include a St. Louis Promise program in that. And that St. Louis Promise program included money to make sure that our children can go to school, can finish post-secondary education for free. And so these programs have been successful in other places like Birmingham and Kalamazoo, Michigan, and those were the things that I supported in the RAM settlement. And when it comes to TIFs and tax abatements, I'll tell you what we've already done in the city of St. Louis. We have a new scorecard, and we hold our schools harmless when we do new tax abatement programs for new developers that are building in the city of St. Louis. And holding them harmless means that any new tax incentives, that the schools continue to get what they deserve from any new developments that happen in the city of St. Louis. We hold our schools harmless, as we did with the senior property tax freeze as well.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. And to Mr. Jones, I'll ask you this question too. One of the sadder signs of a shrinking city can be vacant school properties, those buildings that once housed a school and no longer do. What should the city do with those vacant properties? What would you do with them if you were mayor?
Well, first for education. Our schools are flush with money. If it wasn't for the corruption and the issues that took place, the city of St. Louis doesn't have any money issues relative to the education of our children. It's critical that our children perform at level because our young males don't perform at level. Our young ladies don't perform at level. We have to do something about the cultural rot that is permeated throughout the school system, and we can do that by utilizing the bully pulpit to get things changed. Again, we can use the bully pulpit to get things changed by having report cards, and what I plan on doing as mayor is having, since we're in such a critical state, that we need to meet every month. So a state of the union, so to speak, state of the city will be exposed and talked about, because I would like to get parents more involved so that we can move us forward, because it's absolutely critical. Now, when it comes to vacant homes, vacant properties, things of that nature, that's a result of people fleeing because of education. I had two neighbors who fled the city of St. Louis because of this. I am standing before you because I was once you sitting in the audience and said that I need to do something about it, and I did.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We'll keep working through these categories of different types of questions. I'll again invite you, if you're seeing this QR code come up on your screen, I'm seeing a number of these questions come through, and we'll continue to collect those questions as we start to filter those questions in throughout the night. We'll start this category on economic development with Alderwoman Spencer. Just before we took the stage here a few moments ago, a new post online emerged from Board of Aldermen President Megan Green. Perhaps you've seen it. She is endorsing Mayor Jones, but she's also highlighting some of your backers, the donors who have given to you, economic developers, builders in North City. And President Green questions your commitment to spending ARPA money or RAMS money in North City. Can you outline what your commitment would be to rebuilding North City? And can you explain to our audience what you owe to any campaign donors?
Oh, goodness. I've never been pay to play, and I would really reject the idea that anyone should be. That's a reprehensible accusation, quite honestly. Over the years, I've been so grateful to receive donations from many folks who've never once asked me for anything in return. That's a big honor to be the recipient of. But I am very grateful for folks that are looking to invest in change in our city. They want a city government that they feel confident in investing in. Many of my backers are looking to make sure that the city has a plan for doing the basics, investing in our streets, picking up your trash and filling the potholes, and a public safety plan that makes sure that folks not only feel safe in our downtowns, but throughout our neighborhoods, that you can feel like walking down the street, sending your child on a bike is something that you can do safely. And currently that's not the case in many of our communities, the community I live in, for example. So to your question about what we need to do, what my commitment is to North St. Louis, we are losing population in our city faster than we have in my entire lifetime. That population loss is coming almost exclusively out of North St. Louis, almost exclusively. And in large part because our communities don't feel like our city has their back. They're not delivering the city services that all of our residents deserve and pay for. And if I'm elected mayor, we're going to get serious about doing just that.
Recorder Butler, she used the term investment, and some developers will tell you that they'll advise don't throw good money after bad, and pour investment into areas that are thriving and build from there, pour into the engine, as opposed to trying to revive something that has stalled. How do you see that question as you think about priorities for economic development in the future of St. Louis?
I think about RAMS funding, number one, and the huge opportunity we have to invest in North City even more. My plan for RAMS funding is to invest $50 to $100 million in reducing vacant housing and building brand new housing and affordable housing in North City. What people talk about most in North City is the vacant house next to them, and the vacant house across the street, and the 10s that are on their same block. And we have an opportunity to create a functional housing market north of Delmar and parts of south of Gravois, where there are majority black neighborhoods. I also think about reparations. And this is an important time for us to talk about that topic, because if there's a case for a city that needs reparations, it's St. Louis. You can clearly look at the majority African-American neighborhoods in our city and look much different than the majority non-African-American neighborhoods in our city. And most of it has to do with housing. And our RAMS funding allows us to reduce that disparity and invest in housing and lowering crime, and of course improving city services in each of those North City neighborhoods.
Thank you. Mayor Jones, you mentioned reparations. You had a reparations commission and I think had some ambition for reparations in the city of St. Louis. What is the latest update on that? And it wasn't included in the RAMS bill that we saw. Do you hope that it is?
Well, yes, we had a reparations commission that met for about 12 to 18 months, produced a report, and many of the things in that report we're already doing through our Economic Justice Action Plan, which is to empower, develop, and transform North St. Louis. We've leveraged $250 million into $1 billion of investment in North St. Louis. We are building new homes, building new industry, building new commercial industry, and we want to make sure that every person in the city has the same access to the same things in their neighborhood as anybody else in the city. So, like, for example, I was at National Night Out and Grand and Hebert, and I met a single mom, and she was like, I saw these houses go up on Hebert, and I kept pointing at it. It's like, this is my house, this is my house. And lo and behold, she was able to get a $50,000 home buyer assistance through our home STL program that then allowed her to pay for, or so she and her daughter can live in that house. These are the things that we are doing to provide reparations to North St. Louis and through the Economic Justice Action Plan. And these are the things that we're going to continue to do in my next administration.
Mr. Jones, you've had somewhat of a business background. When you think about the city's potential for economic development, can you list any people that you would partner with, any people in the public that you would tap on the shoulder and enlist their help in bringing St. Louis back?
Certainly. I've been an economic development practitioner for over 26 years. I rose to senior vice president at my corporation, and I've headed up all of those departments, too many to name, but I did head up economic development, and we saw success at all of the cities that we performed at. What I'm submitting to each and every one of you since 2016, I have cajoled, I've talked about it, I've ran for office to say that we need a thorough, comprehensive economic development plan. Therefore, you will not find people left out of the equation. Everyone gets a seat at the table when you develop your economic development plan based off of those contributions to constituents. You do SWOT analysis, you do SOAR analysis, you do all of those things. But more than what you do, you get buy-in from everyone. And in North St. Louis, we will have buy-in from them. South St. Louis, so we won't leave anyone out. We will have a comprehensive plan that takes care of those issues that are so sorely laid behind all of our people so that we can get people engaged into this city and take advantage of the bounty of the city of St. Louis. Again, I was one of you. I have plenty of experience, but I got fed up because change is needed, and I'm submitting that I'm the only one offering real change, and it's critical change.
Thank you for your answer. We're going to stick with economic development. In fact, we'll just reverse the order and go back down the line this way. So we'll start again with you, Mr. Jones. We'll go back to back there. We're getting some questions from the public here. I'll start working them in. How have zoning policies or laws negatively impacted economic development in North St. Louis?
Zoning?
That's right.
Zoning has a positive and a negative impact. When you talk about various issues, it depends on what you're trying to do. And this is why I said that you have to get buy-in from stakeholders, because the stakeholders dictate exactly what's going on. Zoning for whatever particular thing that you're talking about. It could be a negative impact for a particular city, but also zoning could also be a positive. This is why you have to sit down and talk about those issues, because they're absolutely critical. And again, back to the baseline of what you asked, it gets buy-in from people from North St. Louis. It gets buy-in from everyone so that no one is left out. We have food deserts, we have all type of deserts because no one has put together a plan, a thorough plan that puts the citizens of the city of St. Louis at the helm in controlling that. I'm submitting that I will do so. It's critical that we have a comprehensive plan, and I'm the one to do it.
Mayor Jones, we're hearing from some people in the audience through this question forum that are expressing dismay at the FBI investigation into the building division. There's also been calls for audits into SLDC. These things have unfolded on your watch.
Yes.
How can the public be sure that they can trust your administration?
Well, when it hits my desk, I'm going to take care of it. When we found out that there were problems in the building division, I was the one that called the FBI and asked them to investigate. When we found out that there were problems with the SLDC North City grant program, I was the one that worked with Neil Richardson to make sure we did a third-party audit to make sure that we were doing everything that the federal government required us to do, and so we could took a pause so we can continue releasing the funds for that program. And that was and half of the funds are already out in community. They're going to small businesses, and they're making a difference. So I'm not going to shy away from when it gets tough. I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to be held accountable. The buck stops with me. And when it hits my desk, I'm going to take care of it. Thank you.
Recorder Butler, I'd ask a similar question to you. We've heard from Alderwoman Spencer just recently, who said she would pause and review the $37 million in North City grants before they continue going out into the neighborhood. Is that an appropriate step? And how would you regain the public trust in the disbursement of these funds that have generational opportunity?
I think these funds, I would think of two words, reduce and remove. And there are certain awardees of the funds that need to be removed from the list. And there are other awardees whose awards need to be reduced to create space for the awardees that deserve the money. There was a $37 million, and I would imagine there are several folks in, there are 3 different parts of the program. There's several folks that are in the other 2 parts that deserve to be a part of the largest program, the $37 million, at over $20 million. And that's the biggest complaint, is that everybody applied for the $20-something million group, and only certain people got that. We've seen reports of how the process felt unfair and too slow. We can't stop, and because the North City needs this money urgently, and the businesses that deserve those funds, and that we know who they are, they will continue to get them. But the businesses and nonprofits that deserve to be reduced and removed, my administration will do that immediately, and we will be adding folks who deserve funding from the North City Grant Program immediately as well.
Alderwoman Spencer, if I can, you resigned your spot on the board at SLDC in protest over what you called a lack of transparency there around the time that a lot of this information was coming to light. Your critics, like President Green, have said that was you taking a step back from a problem that needed your input. I wonder if you can address that. And then the second part of the question is, when you look at SLDC, 4 years ago you called for using general revenue funds to go into economic development. Would you still take from the general revenue to fund SLDC today, or does it have enough with RAMs and ARPA money?
Well, SLDC, as it is organized today, I don't think deserves any funding from the general revenue. But look, this was set up to fail. We've known there were issues with the North City Grant Program since the beginning of the summer. I was sounding the alarm from within, but it was set up to fail. SLDC doesn't have to be organized this way. SLDC is a separate entity. It's not part of city government. It's not a department. It doesn't follow the same sunshine laws and the same reporting requirements. But checks and balances are required when that is the case. And that is the opposite of what we have right now in SLDC. The head of the organization was appointed by the mayor to be the head of the oversight organization. A complete lack of checks and balances. And as a member of the board of directors, it was clear to me that the public and the board of directors were not getting the information that they needed, and it was clear to me that the oversight was a sham, and I could no longer associate my name with that. In fact, if I'm elected mayor, that would not only never happen, we will fix the bylaws to ensure that moving forward, that could never happen. We need to be able to trust the Economic Development Agency, and it's been clear to me since last summer that these programs, that this program in particular, has been a failure. You know, $37 million is an unprecedented, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We don't even have an accounting of the $3.7 million that SLDC was awarded to oversee the program, let alone the funds that haven't gone out the door at this point that are so badly needed in North City.
All right, perhaps we can come back to economic development. There seems to be a lot to discuss here. We're going to shift to health and wellness. Part of health and wellness, of course, is public safety and crime. There are a lot of people who have suffered severe injuries in the city, on the roads, in shootings, and in unsolved homicides. We heard from a person earlier today, actually, I'll start with that question, who had concerns that there's a backlog of unsolved murders. What would you do in your position as mayor, Alderwoman Spencer, to improve the police's ability to improve its clearance rate to solve unsolved murders?
I think one of the key components to increasing the homicide solving rate is to improve trust in communities with our police department. We can't have members of the community, witnesses of violent crime, victims, if they don't feel confident and comfortable communicating the information the police need to solve problems, to solve crimes, we can't get that done, period. If we're not protecting victims, if we don't have a victim-focused approach to solving crime, we cannot solve crime. And until we really address issues within the police department, I support our police. By and large, we have a good police department, but it's clear to me that we have issues still within the police department. And sometimes supporting our police department and supporting public safety is counterintuitive. When a police officer drives a vehicle into a building, the response should not be, "It's difficult to drive an SUV." This is a breakdown in trust, and frankly, it's an insult to the folks who are wearing uniforms and trying to save our lives. And so, if I'm elected mayor, we are going to focus on rebuilding trust within communities as a high priority and a key component to solving crimes.
All right, thank you. We have some other questions coming in from the public. I want to turn them to Recorder Butler if we can. We know you were a state rep for a while. What efforts have you already undertaken, if any, to lobby against the state takeover of the city police department, or perhaps do you support it?
When I was in the state legislature, we actually gained local control of the police department. And so I've been a big proponent of keeping that control. And while I've made it clear along this entire campaign why and how I support the state takeover. Why is that we're under attack from the federal government to use law enforcement for Project 2025's main agenda, and that is to deport people who are in our city and to increase stop and frisk laws in major cities all across the country. We can't let that happen in our city. We have to continue to keep the good relationship that our police department has tried to build over the past 10 years intact, and we've got to build it even greater. So, what we can do to reduce unsolved homicides when it comes to keeping our local control of our police department is we know that the state government is not going to bring any new resources and any new changes that are part of our St. Louis values. And we want to make sure that, once again, we keep our community relationships strong, that we keep increases for building the quality of police department strong, and continue our Office of Violence Prevention that has had a lot of great community partnerships between the mayor's office and community, so that we're continuing to listening to people and continuing to supporting detectives and folks that are there to solve those crimes.
Thank you, Recorder Butler. I'm asked to relay a quick message from our generous host here. Look, I'm a practitioner of the First Amendment, and I very much respect everyone's right here to speak, but I'd also point out that the candidates who came here tonight have a lot to say, and your neighbors who came out here have a lot to hear. So we'd be happy to hear any feedback through the question form. We want to hear that. Other than that, let's please keep public remarks or interruptions to a minimum to show respect to the folks who came out here tonight, and thank you very much. Mayor Jones, four years ago, when you ran for this job, you took a hardline stance against the head of the police association at the time, the police union, the STLPOA. Today, in your run for re-election, would you accept or solicit the endorsement from either the Ethical Society of Police or the Police Officers Association?
I would not solicit their endorsement because we disagree on a fundamental principle of how our police department should be run. Our police department should be run by local, it should remain in local hands. We voted on this in 2012, and overwhelmingly, the state of Missouri decided that the citizens of St. Louis can govern our own police department. And the unions and the ESOP think that we should go back to a state takeover. Well, I think it's a hostile takeover. We know how to govern ourselves, and we've been doing a good job. Homicides are down over 40%. Youth-involved shootings are down 50%. And our emergency response is up 60%. And our clearance rate is up to 70 to 75%, when nationally it's at 50%. So our officers are doing the work. We hired the first police chief from outside of our city in our entire city's history, and he leads with data. There are parts of North St. Louis at this point that I am speaking that have no homicides for the entire year. I know we're only 6 weeks in, but the things that we're doing are working, especially with our Office of Violence Prevention and funding our organizations on the ground level, because people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. So we're going to keep moving forward on our crime prevention efforts, and no, we do not want a state takeover of our police department.
Mr. Jones, we heard Recorder Butler a moment ago talk about the federal attempts to deputize local police to assist in deportation efforts. We've also heard from the new governor of Missouri that he plans to and has already taken steps through executive action to do just that, to tap local law enforcement on the shoulder and ask them to help in deportation efforts. What would your stance be on that issue if you were elected mayor?
My issue is that St. Louis is at a critical component part of its history. We know 1800 to 2012, the state ran the city of St. Louis's police. From 2012, 2013 to 2024, it's been a ultimate disaster. Ultimate disaster. Now, in order to solve homicides and things of that nature, we have to get high-performing police. We have to get high-performing police to patrol, and we cannot allow North St. Louis not to see police, not to see evidence that they are being looked after. We have people in North St. Louis who begged for policing, high-performing policing. And I'm submitting that in order to do so, we have to draw people back. We have to have a leader who understands that it rots from the head down, everything rots from the head down, and we have to get people to perform. I'm submitting that I have the capacity to do so. We will have policing doing exactly what they need to do because they're high performing. We will have ancillary services and everything else, but we have to have policing in order to do economic development and all the other things that are absolutely necessary because that is the #1 issue for St. Louis.
Mr. Jones, while you still have the mic, if I can,
Yes.
just because I didn't hear a direct answer to the question, can you clarify what action, if any, you would take to oppose any deportation efforts from local law enforcement?
Would I deport any efforts?
What would be your posture toward that edict from the governor of Missouri or from the federal administration to tap local law enforcement and enlist them in deportation efforts? Would you assist in that? Would you oppose it?
I would oppose it. I would oppose it. And the reason I oppose it is because I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a constitutionalist, and I understand that people want to be treated fairly. They absolutely want to be treated fairly, and we will abide by the laws of this land. And if we want to change something, we know how to do it. We know how to do this. I'm submitting if they come, we will absolutely do what's necessary in order to expedite those types of issues, but we will also try to push. You can also believe in something and also not believe in something. You can do both of those, but you have to put the law first, and we will mitigate against what those issues are later.
Thank you. A quick question I think we can just answer with a raise of hands. We heard one of you already allude to it here, but a question that we're getting in the form that we've invited the public to ask is just raise your hand if you support Project 2025. There's no one on that stage. Okay, we've checked one more question off the box there. A few questions coming in on that front. Let's shift gears to community engagement. And because we just gave 2 questions to Mr. Jones, we'll go to Mayor Jones here. What should the role of the public be when it comes to skepticism, criticism? This is a tough job that you're taking on here, and there are critics. Is that a healthy part of feedback in what has been your relationship with critics so far, in your view?
Well, criticism absolutely is a healthy part of feedback. It's a part of our democracy. We're not going to agree 100% of the time. I don't know anybody who agrees with their family 100% of the time. Sometimes my dad and I have it out, and he'll hang up on me, So I think that, but I also think that it's important to disagree without becoming disagreeable. And I've been able to pull people together on some of our region's most critical issues. We started the Save Lives Now program, which we have committed as a region to reducing homicides by 20% and overall violent crime by another 20% as a region over the next 3 years. And we've also started a plan towards addressing our unhoused, moving from shelters to a housing first strategy to make sure that our our unhoused neighbors have access to permanent and supportive housing and then wraparound services, because these things have been tried all over the country, and we know that someone who has housing is going to stay in housing 12 to 18 months later with the proper support and wraparound housing. So yes, disagreements are gonna happen, and you're not gonna agree with me with everything that I do, because sometimes as mayor, the decisions I have are between a bad decision and a worse decision. And sometimes those are things that I have to choose from. So, but please know that as mayor, I have always walked in thinking about every St. Louisan that I represent all the time. Thank you very much.
Recorder Butler, this being President's Day weekend, Abraham Lincoln was one that famously built that team of rivals. Are there any critics of yours, community groups maybe you've disagreed with in the past, that you would bring into your administration, or that you would look to in times of turbulence?
That's interesting how you mentioned Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln had a quote that's one of my favorites. He said, "If I turn an enemy into a friend, have I not lost an enemy?" And I've actually prayed about this a lot for the past few years, because St. Louis city politics does not really do that well. And what God has led me to is when he says we have to love our enemies. And loving our enemies means that what he showed me, the reason why we love our enemies, the reason why we do that is if we treat our enemies negatively and take that negative energy they give us and to turn into negative action, then we make our enemies' words true. And we turn around and we have folks that will look at us negatively because we made our enemies' words true. But if we show them love and we forgive and we listen to constructive criticism, and those organizations that have a dissenting voice, if we bring them in and if we learn there's to be things that are constructive, if we learn to work with folks who may have a different opinion, we show that our enemies are wrong, and a lot of folks why they oppose us, because we are right. I can tell you that I haven't been perfect with that through much when I was a young person as an elected official, because sometimes it gets sucked into city politics. But I have grown in this greatly because of my faith and because of the quote that I grew up with Abraham Lincoln.
Some spiritual advice tonight on stage. Thanks. Alderwoman Spencer, how should a mayor respond to dissent?
To what?
To dissent.
To dissent. I think along the same lines, bringing in criticism, hearing the opposing viewpoints is a critical component to leading, especially in a city with such diversity and such difference of opinions and different lived experience. I think it's important to hear dissent and consider the viewpoints of those we disagree with. When I was re-elected to represent the 8th Ward, a very different district than I previously had, I had run against the sitting mayor, and I had a lot of opposition at the Board of Alderpersons and within city government. And it's taken a lot of relationship building and reaching across aisles to get important measures like the gun bill I did last summer passed through because we've disagreed on things in the past. And you see the Board of Aldermen, we're often disagreeing down there, but it's important to rebuild those relationships, hear the other side, and it often results in better bills and better initiatives and better plans, just to hear a perspective that you hadn't really thought of before.
Thanks for that. We're going to start with you and work our way back down the line this way again, sticking with the topic of health and wellness. One of the most emergent places where health and wellness is needed is in the city jail. You recently highlighted the increase in deaths there after closing the workhouse, but you also acknowledged that you supported that decision to change and to close the workhouse. So what exactly were you saying? Were you saying that you didn't like how the changes took place, and what specifically would you have done differently?
Sure. Closing the workhouse was something I and the Board of Aldermen supported moving forward with, and I think most of the members of the community that I've spoken to agreed with. But the how that was done really fell on the shoulders of the mayor. Planning for that and ensuring that we had a safe place in our CJC was a function of the administrative portion of city government, making sure the locks were working, making sure we had enough staff, making sure that it was safe in that incarceration facility, and quite frankly, that's been a failure. We've seen that in the spikes in fatalities. We've seen that in protests within the jail. We've seen that in a failure to allow even lawyers, let alone the oversight board, to even enter the facility. In my opinion, the failure has been in a lack of planning and a poor execution of something that the community and myself largely wanted.
Recorder Butler, I wonder if you can address that issue and how would the city jail, what does the city owe to people who have been accused of crimes, not yet convicted of them?
The city owes them humanity, and they owe them a humane place to be while they are awaiting their God-given right for a trial. There are three things that we could be doing better. First is allowing the detention facilities oversight board access and everything they need to do correct oversight. Second thing we can do when we're hearing directly from staff is better equipment, quality pay, and more staff. Quite frankly, we need quality pay to get the quantity up in there. I heard from a staff member not too long ago on the polls on during November election that one of the problems they have in CJC right now is that there are several inmates, at least once a month, they'll come in to work and they'll have feces all over the floor or all over the walls. They're dealing with things in our jail, our staff, that we wouldn't think of. And they don't feel that they have enough to deal with it. They don't feel they have the right equipment, they have the right support, and they've been begging for more. And they've been, and many of the folks who advocate for them have been shut out of the process. As mayor, I'll do different.
Mayor Jones, advocates who called to close the workhouse and those who called for greater transparency inside the City Justice Center, frankly believe they had an ally in you when you were running for office. Some of them have become critics of your administration now that you're in office, that the transparency hasn't been as great as you promised. Are there legitimate reasons for that? And what commitments can you make tonight about what transparency would look like in the next 4 years?
A couple of weeks ago, we had a press conference where we announced a new interim commissioner, Doug Burris, who has experience in the St. Louis County Jail, turning that facility totally around. And he has given us a 60-day plan to do the same thing or similar things with St. Louis City CJC. But let me take you back a few years. I inherited the problems that are currently in the CJC. When I became mayor, the locks were not working. And so we spent $19 million in an upgrade of the entire facility to make sure the locks worked. That took years to complete because when you have to shut down an entire section, you have to move all of those detainees to another section in order to fix the locks in that one section. So it took a long time. The other thing we did was we got rid of the health provider in the jail and also gave our own health department staff to oversee the new health provider that's in the jail. And the number of deaths have decreased significantly. Yes, one is one too many. And yes, absolutely we should be making sure that our detainees are treated with dignity and respect. But some of them have been there for too long. And we want our courts to also start moving people through the system. We are just housing people while they wait for their day in court. And so we want, we are working through our CJCC, our Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, with our courts, with the judges, with the Circuit Attorney's Office to make sure that we can put together some dockets to move those people through. They deserve their day in court. They deserve closure. Those families deserve closure. And I'm speaking from experience as a daughter of someone who was formerly incarcerated. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be a family. And we are making sure that the DFOB, or the Detention Facilities Oversight Board, which also has a new director, will get access to the jail, and their attorneys will get the access that they deserve as well.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, the detainees in the City Justice Center don't have access to outdoor facilities. They're inside all day. That report that the mayor just referenced listed that there's a dearth or a lack of opportunities for activities or things for them to do while they're inside. What changes would you make at the City Justice Center?
Initially, when I ran in 2016, I had concerns about the workhouse. I said we can't lose capacity. We're already dealing with deaths and all types of unmentionable issues that happened. They closed it, and it's been exponentially growing. I'm submitting that everyone that's locked up is innocent till proven guilty. So why haven't they been given the opportunity to present themselves as being innocent until proven guilty? And why hasn't the Justice Center and those who were involved given them the opportunity to show that they are human, they should be treated humanely, but we also have to detain them until we flush things out. I'm submitting that we should have never closed that work center until we were able to justify having the capacity that we're at. Again, we have a lot of lawlessness here in the city of St. Louis, and we have to do something about it. We have to get people involved either organically, or we have to submit that we will have to, and I will not run from it, we will have to use high-performing police in order to justify closing things down and making people safe. But again, we have to present change, because change is necessary, and I'm committing that I am the change.
Mr. Jones, thanks for that answer. I want to ask you quickly, you recently said when asked about the state takeover of the city police department that you'd be open to it unless you were elected mayor, and then you wouldn't be quite as open to it, if I understood your comments correctly. Is that fair to the other candidates on this stage?
What do you mean? If it's fair to the other
You said if
candidates?
you were elected mayor, you
Yes.
would not like a state takeover, but if I'm left to presume that anyone else were elected, that you would support it. Is that fair to the voters of the city?
Oh, absolutely. It is absolutely fair, because I'm submitting that I have the experience. Again, I support the police because I am going to hold them accountable for what they do. If they do and conduct injustices to people, I'll be the first one to stand there and say this person did wrong, and we will admit to it and we will move forward. But when they do well, we will support them. There's no deviation whatsoever, and I'm submitting that there could be an option to be able to get the governor to back off of it, because I have the experience not only in being a leader, but I also have the experience in all of those other areas that's needed, and it's critical.
Mayor Jones, St. Louis, as you know, is a shrinking city. Its population is declining. So too is its number of enlisted officers. You've stated you'd like to fill many of these positions, but the city has yet to see those jobs show up, those officers show up. Why is that?
I think that's a misleading question. Our officers are showing up. We have been recruiting officers continually since the new chief has gotten here. We have a new recruitment program in partnership with the Police Foundation. We've had dozens of officers come back to the force since our new police chief has been here, and our academy sizes are increasing. Right now, we just took another class that had roughly 30 people starting an academy class. Now, you understand that when we started around 30, sometimes we end up with about half, because these classes are tough. It takes they're in academy for 6 months and then another year in on-the-job training, and a lot of people don't make it. But I am submitting to you that we are recruiting, and our attrition rate is slowing down based on the number of people that we are hiring. And we have given our officers 2 large raises, and that has led officers to come back to the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department.
You would acknowledge that the total number is continuing to decline. You said the rate of attrition, but the total number is declining.
That's happening all across the country, Mark.
There's
It's
the
not
why.
just St. Louis.
Recorder Butler, how many officers does a shrinking city need?
So a shrinking city needs quality over quantity, and I think it's important to focus on the quality of officers that we have, and the quality officers we can improve quality by aggressively continue to approve raises for our police department. Now, we have had raises, 2 big raises in the past 2 years, in the past administration, but we got to be higher than St. Louis County and St. Charles. We've had a few come back, And as mentioned before, we have in the teens that join the police department after going through the academy, but we're still hundreds behind. So we have to be more aggressive in order to get the quality we need and be able to continue to retain officers. I would like to do that by reducing our overtime budget and continue to increase salaries that from a flat rate and not a percentage rate for many of our officers. Two, look, if the state government wants to take over our police department, they got to put in some money too. And if they're going to go ahead and do that, $30 million will go towards about a $15,000 flat rate raise to every police department employee. And if they want to take it, they got to buy it. And quite frankly, we need better equipment as well. I would propose that if you're listening, Governor Kehoe, $8 million for equipment is about the amount that our police department needs to improve all of their cars and all the equipment they wear every day. The reason why they want to, a lot of folks in the police department want to get the state to take over. So we have quite a bit of resources in our city. We need more. In order to build quality and give the quality equipment that our police department needs, we need to be much more aggressive, and I would hope we can get that money from the state.
He's asking if you need more or not. That's a quick yes or no.
No.
No, not more. Alderwoman Spencer, I'm going to recycle a question to you that I asked Mayor Jones earlier. Would you accept or would you seek the endorsement of the St. Louis Police Officers Association or of the Ethical Society of Police?
This election cycle, I have not sought out the endorsements of those organizations, but I do plan to work with them. You know, we're talking a lot about state takeover of our police department, and I stand firmly on the side of retaining local control. I want the mayor and the city of St. Louis to control not only to control the police department, but the policies that our police officers adhere to. I think building trust is a key component to making our city a safer place. But let's be honest, the overwhelming majority of our police officers would rather have the state of Missouri control the police department than the city of St. Louis. Both the POA and the Ethical Society are black police officers. And this is a problem, but this is not a problem unique to the police department. We just gave our officers raises, and we also just gave raises to other city employees. Let's talk about how we did that. Our city employees have been out of contract since June of last year. After the Board of Aldermen had the last meeting at which we could introduce a new board bill to even provide those raises, that's when a public announcement went out that we're giving raises. It was a slap in the face to workers in every single city department. This happened a month before we're scheduled to finish and complete a study of what we should be paying workers. Politically motivated? It sure seems like that to our city employees. And it's not the way to treat a workforce.
Mayor Jones, you're the only person on this stage who can respond to that.
Yes.
Can you take us behind the scenes into those negotiations?
Yes, absolutely. So as the chair of the Budget and Public Employees Committee, then she should know that first off, we were dealing with a lawsuit related to remote workers and the earnings tax. We had to provide refunds, and we set aside $26 million in the beginning of the fiscal year to pay out these refunds. That we were waiting for that number, we were waiting for that process to be completed, and it didn't get completed until late December, early January, and the number ended up being around $40 million. And so after we finished that piece, then we were able to look at how much we had left to give raises to city employees. We first had to satisfy our legal obligations, and then we're able to give a raise to city employees. It's absolutely not politically motivated. As soon as we satisfied our legal obligation, our first order of business was to make sure that our employees received a healthy raise.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to go back this way and cycle our way through. Feel free to use part of your answer if you'd like to here.
With all due respect, our employees came to the hearings and were expressing frustration that they weren't part of the discussions, they weren't part of the negotiations. So, I mean, you know, we had a $42 million surplus in the city's budget the last year. So these are processes that should have been going along with city employees. What I can say is that our employee base overwhelmingly was disappointed and felt left out of the conversation.
Recorder Butler, I can sense you wanting to jump in here. Would labor management tensions crop up while you were mayor with the police?
I want to jump in to make sure we're following the rules. And
Yeah, we
I
went
think
off course
that,
there a little bit.
No, you're all good. I think that can you ask your question again?
Would labor and management tension crop up between you and the police while you were mayor?
I can't predict what kind of issues I would have with the police department while I'm mayor. I wouldn't want to do that. What I will say is that I think it's important to have a watchdog that is supportive of the Civilian Oversight Board when it comes to the community and supporting what I hear from voters when it comes to the police department. I also think it's important that our police officers get the equipment they deserve to do a good job and the quality salaries that they need to do a good job. And I think as mayor, you are tasked with difficult decisions of balancing both sides, and I am fully equipped to handle both.
Well, thanks. Let's see if we can get this thing back on track. We'll start with Alderwoman Spencer and work our way back down the line this way. I think this question might touch on a number of the categories that we've highlighted tonight. Alderwoman, you talk a lot in your campaign about the city's population loss and about the police force. Frankly, when I talk to a few police officers, young working dads who have kids, one of the reasons why they look to leave the city is for different schools. What promises or commitments are you prepared to make as it pertains to the RAMS money that's available that might help boost the education opportunities for kids of city workers? There were proposals that would expand early childhood education, tuition, post-secondary education. Is that a good way to spend the RAMS money if it helps keep retention among city workers and police?
Yeah, I think the proposals we were looking at with regards to education and the RAMS settlement were kind of one-time shots. I think that if we're going to be investing in education, and we should, my son, as I mentioned earlier, is a student at SLPS, St. Louis Public Schools, we need a robust citywide approach to early education and childcare that makes sense for everyone. The proposals before us were just tiny pennies, in the bucket of the real need, and I think that is a real insult to the issue. I want to see a robust citywide plan that can fund early education for every city student, and I don't think we were looking at that. The RAMS fund, while it is a lot of money, $290 million at this point with interest, is really just a fraction of one year's general revenue. And so it isn't a robust enough account to do that. I think for the RAMS funds, we're going to have to be walking through some very, very difficult years ahead when we're looking at that massive population loss. The loss of kids in our schools not only means that we don't have those families here, but those tax dollars from the state are leaving St. Louis public schools and leaving holes in the educational system throughout our city. So as far as the RAMS money goes, Mark, I think we're going to have to be looking at the ways in which the federal government's pulling back funding across the board before we can make those decisions. Nobody could have predicted the craziness coming out of the White House right now.
Recorder Butler, the Board of Aldermen tells us that data they've reviewed shows that the fastest group of families leaving the city of St. Louis are young parents. Mm-hmm. What would you do with RAMS money to prevent or to stop that exodus of young parents?
Yeah, I think RAMS money is what sets some of us apart in this race, and $292 million is a big piece to invest. So I would focus on increasing population by focusing on three things that people say why they leave our city or they don't move to our city: better schools, lower crime, better housing options. So for better schools, I propose $25 million a year for the next 5 years, with $500,000 that go into advocacy for our state and federal government to provide wraparound services to our students. Early childhood education is a great thing, but our kids have been through so much: COVID, social media, and now transportation issues. They deserve a break. The kids that are in school now, we need to be investing to them this RAMS funding, not for babies who haven't been born yet. Secondly, reducing crime. While we got to have annual salaries for that salary increases I've talked about before, I want to make sure that $8 million for equipment for our police department can be a one-time funding thing that can hopefully make our police officers and folks in our police department happy enough to why they're complaining so much to try to take state takeover. And then thirdly, housing options is important. Quite frankly, our neighborhoods are the biggest eyesore in our city. When people come to our city, one of the reasons why I decided not to move here is they don't see enough neighborhoods that look good enough for them when they're driving down the highway. And when our folks in North City, as we talked about before, the first thing they talk about is how to reduce vacant housing in our areas. I want to focus on consumer-based incentives as well as building brand new infill housing in all of our neighborhoods in North City.
Thank you, Recorder Butler. Mayor Jones, you talked about the Rams money, and you said at the start you wanted to see it help everyone in the city, citywide. How is that consistent with your support for the idea to use those funds for city workers to have housing benefits or education tuition benefits? How does that affect or help everyone in the city?
Well, oftentimes when you're in the legislative process, what you want isn't necessarily what comes back from the Board of Aldermen. And so through a number of discussions, many people on the board decided that they wanted to support using what we call the people bucket for city employees first, seeing how that works, and then expanding it citywide. And so the people bucket, we also wanted to partner with our private and philanthropic community to add to those funds. So if we started with $10 million, for example, for the STL Promise program, which would pay for last dollar scholarships for children of city employees that go to local universities, Harris-Stowe being one of them, then the legislation said that we would try it for 3 years for city employees, but we would also try to attract private philanthropic match dollars, which we were in discussions with many of our local foundations to match our money so we can make it go longer. And so that was the case with a couple of other funds as well. We would live off the interest and save the principal, so we would still have money circulating in our community. So we weren't trying to spend everything all in one place all at once. We were setting up different funds to live off the interest, save the principal, so we can still have that money for many, many years to come.
Mr. Jones, a similar question to you. How would you use the Rams money to reverse the city's population loss?
Well, I believe we have to take into consideration something that's significant. The Rams money is a windfall. It's a windfall. You can't depend on utilizing a windfall because once the money's gone, it's gone. We have to depend on economic development to build up a robust contribution to our tax money and going to our budget so that we could be self-sufficient and not depend on it. Again, distractions, I would say, and it's critical that we pay attention and not be distorted by talking about Rams money that, again, you can deal with it for emergency funds, some SALT, things of that nature, but you put that money aside, save it for a rainy day, use the interest for some emergency uses, but we have to get busy about building up the city of St. Louis's tax base by attracting new business, by retention of existing business. We have to do all of those things that's necessary because Rams money is a windfall and it's going to be gone and with a poof and nothing will be done, and 4 years later we'll be talking about whatever.
Thank you for your answer. Perhaps we can go a quick lightning round here. I think this will be a pretty quick answer from each of you. I like the question someone submitted here. I'm going to amend it just a little bit. They ask, what neighborhood are you from? I'll ask you to also say, what's your favorite spot? Where would we be most likely to see you out and about in your neighborhood? We'll start with you, Mr. Jones.
At 3911, my address, McCree Avenue. I'm not afraid to tell anyone where I live. It is what it is, and we are happy where we are. And 3911 McCree Avenue. I'm not afraid of anything. And yes, I'm not afraid of anything. And we enjoy our neighborhoods, and we enjoy the city of St. Louis. And I walk around constantly. I walk at St. Louis University, so I love it.
We won't ask the rest of you to dox yourselves, but you just tell us your neighborhood and a spot where maybe you like to go.
I started in Hamilton Heights, then we moved to Walnut Park. Then we moved to Shaw, and now I'm back on the west side, which is the best side. And I love my neighborhood. I love being able to be a block away from my dad because I got to keep an eye on him. And then also, where would you find me? You'll find me sometimes at Harold's Chicken on Union.
Reporter Butler.
I live in the Gate District neighborhood, so near south, just one neighborhood west of Lafayette Square, and where you'll find me in my neighborhood is normally a Diner's Delight, which has some of the best soul food in the region. Outside of my neighborhood, though, you'll most likely find me at Union Station, where I like to go from the Starbucks to the restaurant to the pitched bar at Union Station. And I always love to take my family there for the holidays. We take a staycation every year with the kids, and it's a great place to take your kids if you want to get away from your home.
Alderwoman.
Well, I live in the Marine Villa neighborhood, a little neighborhood east of Broadway, kind of along the river, close, just south of the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. And I think my most favorite guilty pleasure might be the Fraser Fashioned at Fraser's Bar and Grill, or restaurant in Benton Park.
Another rapid fire round. We'll start with the raise of hands. Who supports the Green Line? The Green Line.
That's a complicated question, Mark. That's not a yes or no question.
Okay, well, your hand went halfway up. I don't know. So maybe explain your answer and we'll work back this way.
Sure. Public transit is an incredibly vital part of a city. And, I think that, I got really involved in city government before being an alderperson supporting the North-South Metrolink line. But the Green Line, as it's proposed, this 5-mile track, I think could be a real boondoggle for the city of St. Louis. It's over $1 billion. The cost per rider per mile is at about $6.77. For anybody who's taking an Uber, it's about $1.50. And anybody who's thinking about taking a driverless car, it's projected to be about 50 cents. So this is tax dollars. And we're looking at a time when the federal government is clawing back federal funding across the board. And when you're looking at a project that we're going to be footing the bill for, at $6.77 per person per mile, 4 times what it costs to take an Uber. Is this worth mortgaging out for the next 50 years for 5 miles? I think we've got a lot of issues with it.
Recorder Butler.
I don't support the Green Line because riders don't support the Green Line. So much of the Green Line's funding that is not initial, the future funding is based on ridership. And riders are telling us that they won't use it because it'd be less efficient and it's be more expensive than their current options. They're asking for more frequent and more investment into better bus lines because that's what they use now and that's what will be more efficient to them. We can't take on this funding and our people are telling us not to. Now I understand that we wanted a North-South Metrolink for a long time. And I understand a lot of the work that's been put into trying to make something like this possible. But when we're working for people, sometimes we got to change course for them.
I'm sensing a clear distinction about to emerge on the stage. Mayor Jones.
Yes, absolutely, because only 2 neighborhoods of all of the neighborhoods that the Green Line goes through do not support it. And one of those neighborhoods is afraid of black people being in their neighborhood. So I'm not going to say which neighborhood that is, but I'll let you figure that out. When we passed the proposition several years ago, our voters told us that they wanted to expand public transit and they wanted to expand Metrolink. And so that's what the money has to go for. And so we will add our money to a federally funded grant agreement which will cover most of the cost of the Green Line, which actually is about $880 million, not $1 billion. We've been able to make several changes as we have gotten to 30% design to reduce the cost of what is going to reduce the cost of building for the Green Line. And I'll be honest with you, the changes happening at the federal level are going to make this process untenable for us. We don't know what the Department of Transportation is going to fund in the future. So that's why I support it.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. And Mr. Jones, same question to you. Do you support the Green Line? Why or why not?
We've been talking about the city of St. Louis is in financial troubles. Am I right? Financial troubles. So how can we flirt around with Green Line? We have more pressing problems that we have to deal with in order to turn the city around. I'm saying superfluous things that, like the Green Line, all of those different things are an issue, but you also have to take into consideration that North St. Louis, when we're talking about is it safe, things of that nature, it's not safe riding buses up north. We have to concentrate on, if we are going to be fair, we have to contribute to making North St. Louis bus lines more affordable, make the ridership feel more safe, and then you will be able to expand. But certainly we have to take care of the funding component part of it, and we're overreaching.
All right. We're still technically in this little lightning round, right? We're keeping it quick and light. So I'm going to revisit a question that maybe some of you saw during the primary election 4 years ago. It's sort of interesting. It's a political question, but we'll try it out. The candidates then were asked, look, if you don't survive this approval process and make it to the general, then who do you want to see become mayor? Who else on this stage do you think is most qualified, if not you, Mr. Jones?
Oh, are you going with me first?
If not you, then who?
Well, I'll submit like I submitted 4 years ago in 2016. I think we're in bad shape. Because 4 years from now, when I run again, because I'm adamant, if things fall the way that you say, we are at another step closer to the total demise of the city of St. Louis. And I'm submitting that we have to have a significant change and someone who presents a significant change in order to change the city of St. Louis.
I want to clarify. I make no predictions here tonight on who will win in the primary or in the general, but I didn't hear an answer to your question. Who else on this stage, if not you, belongs in the mayor's office?
I was very clear. That I don't support anyone
no one on
the stage.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Jones.
I'm sorry. You know, I think Michael Butler has done a good job at running the Recorder of Deeds office. He's touted some of the things he's been able to do. I know that it's easier for me. I went down there to get a birth certificate not too long ago, and it was the easiest process I've ever been through. And I've been able to use his website to look up information regarding my family as I built my family tree. All of that sort of progress takes a lot of hard work. So I applaud you, Recorder Butler, for the progress that you've made in your office.
There you go. Questions to you.
I was going to say Mayor Tishaura Jones before she made that comment, but it makes it a lot easier. I've said for a long time that sometimes me and Tishaura start in a different place, we always end in a similar place. And a lot of her policies around moving forward for North City and trying to get the attention on North City are things that we've heard for a long time, and we start to see plans on. And I think a lot of our people in our community are looking for more action, and I'm hoping to deliver that action, but I am sure that me and Tishaura will have similar actions. And if I wasn't mayor, I would want her to be mayor.
Do you see how we built the tension? Questions to you now.
I'm going with you, Mark.
Oh, I'm not qualified. I'm not on the ballot. Do not write my name in.
4 years ago when we were all asked this question, I shared that I have a lot of overlapping values with the mayor. But, I've been very disappointed with the last 4 years and the execution of what the city really needs right now. And so I'm not prepared to endorse any other candidates on the panel at this moment. But I think we're all going to move forward through the primary and see where things lie.
All right, there we go. We're going to focus back on some of the questions we're getting from you in the public, and thank you again. We have nearing 198 questions from you, so thank you. What I've been trying to do here is...
We don't have time for 198
We don't have time, but we've been
questions.
checking a number of them off, and if they're similar, we're synthesizing them together. But one here about fiscal responsibility and also about the bang we get for our buck, basically. We'll start with you, Mr. Jones. The question here is stated, we pay several nonprofit organizations to tackle violence and workforce development. Would you as mayor continue giving these funds, even though, in this person's opinion, we don't always see the fruits of our money?
Well, what I submit is that we have to do a total evaluation before we determine where our money goes. And it doesn't take long to understand that if you have former criminals ahead of a certain department, we certainly want to look at that with an askance eye. But if you are looking at trying to get people involved who have a clear record, who understands what they're doing, we certainly will get them involved. We are going to have all types of ancillary services that will support the community and to make the community safe. But the idea that we have one of our programs that has criminals involved with it certainly shouldn't be there.
Mayor Jones, do people with a record, they deserve a second chance at life? Do they belong in city government?
Absolutely, they do. We are a second chance hirer. And if we didn't hire people that, either we believe that people deserve a second chance or we don't. And speaking from experience, being the daughter of an ex-felon myself, he deserves a second chance and deserves to thrive and provide for his family just like everybody else.
Recorder Butler, I'll throw the combo question to you about the funds going to some of these nonprofit groups and also the question about rehabilitation.
I like to think of one reason why we wouldn't give people a second chance. Whenever I reflect on some mistake you've made in your life and why you didn't deserve a second chance at your dream or your job. So rehabilitation is not just a word, it is a lifestyle that our city has to embody. And in a lot of ways we do. We talked about TJC earlier, and everyone in that building, whether they are convicted or not, deserves a chance to work for the same government that locked them up. So I don't understand why anyone, we're going to be a welcoming city when I'm mayor, we're going to be a compassionate city when I'm mayor, and while I am compassionate for everybody's views, I don't have any compassion for folks who want to tear down folks who have been through a tough time in their life.
Alderwoman, would you ban the box on the application to work in city government?
Well, actually, Mark, I did vote to do that at the Board of Aldermen. We led that effort to ban the box. I think it is important to give folks a second chance. But I think it's also important to do that mindfully. We recently rehired a city worker to come into the building division, a building division that's already plagued with corruption and all sorts of accusations from the FBI and other things. And when we're empowering people, giving people the awesome responsibility of going into other people's homes, we need to be careful and we need to be mindful about some of those things. So absolutely everyone deserves a second chance, but there are cases in which, and circumstances in which we need to exercise a little more caution than we currently have. And as to your question about the nonprofits and the work that they're doing in our community, some of that work is very, very impactful, but I do think we need to have some more metrics around the return of investment and making sure that when we are taking tax dollars and giving them to institutions that don't follow sunshine and other public disclosure laws, that we are holding them accountable to delivering the services that they're promising us.
All right, we're moving right along. I just want to remind you in the audience, as we approach the end of this program at 8 o'clock, we're going to hear from each of these candidates for a full 2 minutes as they make their final arguments here at this event tonight. Of course, the debate continues and early voting starts next Tuesday. As the first approval primary is just on March 4th, just a few days away. We're going to start with you, a question that I think could kick off overtime if we really got into it. Pandora's box here. How do you feel about the city-county merger idea? Oh,
the city-county merger. Look, we have a fractionated governance in the city, the region, the whole 9 yards. I mean, we have countywide office holders here in the city of St. Louis, and I think between the city and county alone, we have 672 elected officials, all the county boards of aldermen, et cetera. I think it's imperative that we work together to build a merged sense of city government in some capacity, whether that looks like the city re-entering the county or some sort of combined effort, because we're fighting against each other. We're fighting for Costco's, we're fighting for investment, and what that means is that we all lose. And the big box chains and those that were competing for investment win, because we're all competing against each other to get a small piece of the pie. And so if we are going to collectively start to grow as a broader community, we have to do it together.
I'm going to keep a shot at that, but I'm also going to ask you a different question. Feel free to answer them both if you'd like. Just we're racing through these questions here. The police foundation, using private funds, supplements the income of our police chief, Robert Tracy. Would you allow that the questioner here raises questions about the transparency and the allegiance there. Would you change that practice?
Yes. Community folks do not like that private sector involvement in our public sector employee. And while Chief Tracy has done some good work, he hopefully can do some good work with $100,000 less. Our current mayor only gets paid about $131,000 base salary and a $30,000 expense account. She's doing much more work than many folks are getting paid twice her salary. So we're all here at a bargain, and the police chief shouldn't be any different. I do want to talk about city-county merger quickly to say that I've always supported city-county merger, but city-county merger will never happen unless black people feel like they're going to have a benefit from it. And it will never benefit black people until the folks who want city-county merger put the right folks from our community at the table and make sure that we can benefit from it.
Mayor Jones, I don't know if I've actually heard you comment on the city-county merger before. Maybe you've addressed it. What are your thoughts on this idea?
I think we need to address the elephant in the room first when we talk about a city-county merger. We still have 88 municipalities in St. Louis County, 58 police departments, 50-plus fire districts, and St. Louis has 22 school districts, and St. Louis has one of each of those. So we're talking about going towards a government that is more efficient, correct? And I submit to you that St. Louis's government is more efficient, and we have a great credit rating and a surplus. And this is no dig on my friends in St. Louis County, but they are going through a lot of budget problems at the moment. And I don't see where this is going to benefit the city becoming another municipality of the region. And it makes no difference to anybody outside of the region but us. We can still grow, we can still provide services, we can still work together as we have been as leaders on East-West Gateway Council of Governments. We work together on many things many important things that affect our region: transportation, homelessness, crime. So we are already all at the table working together and rowing this boat in the right direction.
Mr. Jones, I'll get to you in a minute, but Mayor Jones, can you also tell us, did you have any reservations about that setup for the compensation for the police chief? And do you think it's working?
I absolutely think it's working. We needed a world-class police chief who was going to meet the moment, who had experience in bringing down crime in double-digit percentages, and we found a chief that was going to do that. And so I am unapologetic about the decision that we made to partner with the foundation to supplement the chief's salary.
Mr. Jones, we'll start there. Would you change the policy of private funds supplementing the salary of the police chief who serves in a public job?
Well, if you want good people, if you want great people, you have to pay them. I come from the private sector. So I am submitting that in order to retain or to attract people here, you're going to have to pay them. If we're going to get police to come, we're going to have to pay them. We're going to have to pay people, and the big issue is whether or not we have the funds for it. And when you look at the St. Louis County, and they're talking about the city of St. Louis and the county merging, I'm submitting that the county is in a better financial position. There's a better issues all around. I can't think of anything at this particular point in time where it is a driver for the city of St. Louis and the county to merge, because the issues that the city of St. Louis face right now are horrific. And why would the city of the St. Louis County want to merge with the city of St. Louis? Once we get everything in order here, I'm submitting that they will want to merge with us, because we are together and we will be the focus point of the city of St. Louis and the county.
Thank you for your answer. And just to be fair, we didn't give you a chance, Alderwoman Spencer, to address the police salary issue. Quickly, do you have a view on whether that should change or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to give raises across the police department, across all city departments. And I think, what I would change, though, is consider making those salaries, the additional funds, be housed within the city so that we have one boss. What I don't like is sort of that, you know, the having two payment entities. So establishing a nonprofit or an entity within city government that can bolster salaries across the police chief or other positions, but having that housed so that the funding is within the city instead of having it coming from two separate sources. That's having the buck stop in one place, Mark, is I think the way to do it better.
All right, we're going to start this next question with Mayor Jones and then work our way back around here. You're the first person who can answer this because you're in the hot seat. You're in the mayor's job right now.
Uh-oh.
A number of you've had to part ways with the director of the jail.
Yes.
You're right now in the middle of a contentious hearing with the personnel director, Ms. Sonia Jenkins-Gray. Do you plan to part ways with her? And why do you think that particular hearing had to become so public, so acrimonious?
Well, I can't talk about personnel issues. However, what I will say is that sometimes when you are the leader of an organization and you hire people, you think they're going to work out, and sometimes they don't. That happens in the private sector as well. You hire somebody, you think they're going to work out, and sometimes they don't. And this is the case with the people that are now on their way out of city government. So I hate to say this, but it is what it is. This is what happens when you're a leader. You hire people, you think they're going to work. Sometimes they do. A majority of my cabinet and staff have stayed, but sometimes people don't work out.
Can we just follow up with a clarification? You said people on their way out. Is it your intent to part ways with the personnel director?
Can't talk
Can't
about
say
that
that yet.
until the process is over.
I just heard that. I wanted to make sure you were,
I was-
if you were making news, you were clarifying. But
No, I can't talk about
I hear
that
you.
until the process is over.
what have you seen so far in the appointment process, and would you embrace this idea of a city manager, where instead of the mayor making a lot of these appointments, it was a long-term hiring process where more of a career bureaucrat was brought in? Is there merit to the city exploring this idea?
There's absolutely merit to exploring the idea of a city manager, and the more I learn about the idea, the more I warm up to it. It's important that we have efficiency in our city government. I've talked in my campaign about going back to the basics, and we have learned that our city government is not doing basic city services well. And if a city manager or city administrator is going to improve that, then we should give it some strong consideration. There's no guarantee, though, that will happen. The mayor will be, with this new plan, will be able to appoint the city manager or the city administrator. And with that being said, I think that would give the next mayor the ability to have great parameters and a good rubric to pick that city administrator. Once again, the salary of that city administrator is set to be twice as much as the current mayor, which is interesting to me because they're going to do half the job of the mayor, but get twice their salary. And I think that's something to be considered about the bargain we're getting right now in the mayorship. But I think it's a strong proposal that deserves strong consideration, and it could take some parts off the mayor that may make things better, or it could not.
I should note that you voters would have to approve a change like this to adapt to a city manager position before, just in case this is still sort of a new topic being discussed. You've said you might be open to that. Are there other changes to the charter that you'd like to see if you were mayor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the city manager one is a really, really, really good proposal to move forward. It depoliticizes the appointments. We need to be holding our department heads accountable to metrics and reporting back to the public how we're doing. We're not doing that right now, and that's why the time it takes to fill a pothole, the time it takes to do the basic things that we're reporting, that citizens are reporting, is not getting done as efficiently and as effectively as it should be. I think, you know, there are several other charter changes I think we should be considering. Roping some of the county offices into city government, I think, would be a good opportunity to streamline some of our city governments. We're talking about the personnel director. Each one of these county offices, I think there are 9 of them, have their own HR departments. Talk about inefficient in their own hiring practices and their own hiring processes, salaries, scales, et cetera. And I think that's wildly inefficient. The fact that we have our parking division, the funds and fees we collect off of parking on our streets completely siloed outside of the funds that we rely on to pave your streets is a huge inefficiency that we should be addressing through a charter and state law change so that we can start to use those funds to improve our streets.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, are there obstacles that you see in the city charter that keep St. Louis back?
Well, I would like to address the issue because it's a canary in the coal mine. Bill 162, City Administrator, that is telling us something. It's telling us something that who submitted this particular bill doesn't have confidence in the competence of the administration. Now, what I would like to have seen is that we are standing on the fact that Tishaura is doing a fantastic job and she can lead us through this. But there's a missing issue there. And it is important that we understand that in my line of work, if we need additional help, I might as well get rid of you and change. The city of St. Louis needs change. And this is a canary in a coal mine, and it's saying something, and we have to do the analysis to determine what, but it's absolutely critical. And the last part, I think I'm almost out of time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I wish we could get into so many more topics and questions. There's a lot of things I'd love to ask about the airport, but there's going to be more forums, and thank you to you candidates for showing up. I want to do something for a minute, give them just a quick second to regroup and gather their thoughts. They've been through a lot asking tough questions tonight. I'm not going to ask any of you tonight who you're voting for, but I want to ask you this question. By show of hands, who walked in tonight already a decided voter? Okay, there's your survey. A whole lot of votes out there left to get. Who's leaving here tonight knowing now who you plan to vote for? Some people already made up their minds. Those are the persuadables, perhaps. We're going to start with you, Mr. Jones. You have a full 2 minutes to make your closing arguments and tell the people here what the future of St. Louis the next 4 years would look like under your administration.
My name is Andrew Jones, and I'm saying I'm offering change. I'm offering significant change. Out of the 4 candidates, I'm saying that I offer a diametrically different position on how to attack the problems, how we need to solve the problems, and it's because of my analytical capacity, it's because of my experience, a BS from Lincoln University in economics and finance, a master's degree in international business, an MBA from WashU. I have the tools necessary in order to evaluate a problem and look at it untethered by emotion, because the city of St. Louis is in dire straits, and we need someone competent and capable in order to move the needle to make things better for the city of St. Louis. Again, other people may say that, hey, he's a little too strict, he's a little bit too tough, but I'm saying St. Louis needs tough. St. Louis needs someone who has the capacity to move the issues so that we can enjoy things in the city of St. Louis and no one will be left out. No one will be left out, because we'll have an economic development plan that includes North St. Louis, Central Corridor. Everyone will have issues taken care of, and they will have input, because we need the north side of St. Louis. I've said it over and over, no city can be competent and capable with a weak side. So Andrew Jones for mayor.com, andrewjones4mayor.com.
Thank you. Mayor Jones, the floor is yours.
Ooh, well, thank you all for joining us this evening. Our crowds are getting larger and larger, and it shows how many people are really concerned about the future of our city. Times are tough, but St. Louis is tougher. This is about the work. And I submit to you that I am not the one that's going to quit when the going gets tough. I'm not going to abstain. I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to quit certain parts of my job when I don't like what's going on with that particular agency. The buck stops with me. And have things been perfect? Absolutely not. I see and feel the potholes just like you do, but we are repaving our 30 miles of our roads coming up soon. And Google-friendly streets, you'll find $300 million in transportation infrastructure that we have planned from now until 2027. Just like you, my kid goes to a St. Louis school, and I want him to be safe. And so we've invested in our rec centers to make sure that our children have places to go where they can be safe and feel like kids and have fun. This is about moving St. Louis forward. We can't keep changing our leaders every 4 years because nothing will happen. No change will happen. And people who think they can change everything, people who've never run anything think they can change everything. And I submit to you that that's not true. That's what I've learned as a leader. That's what I've learned as a leader of St. Louis, and I want to keep moving us forward. So I am asking for your vote on March 4th and hopefully again on April 8th. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Recorder Butler.
Thank you. I'm Michael Butler again, and I'm running for mayor to make this city more fair for everyone. I got into politics because I played a baseball game as a kid, and I played for the old Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club. And we were playing against a team that I knew was cheating. Now, this team would go up into second base with their cleats up. As a shortstop, that was very difficult for me to get the ball to first base. And then as I go on to third base, they throw dirt in the air and keep me from getting the ground ball. And I don't like to say the name of the team we were playing, but I will tell you the name rhymes with Schmatthews and Schmicky. And the Schmatthews and Schmicky folks love to hear me say that they won that game. They beat us so bad that I cried to my dad. I said, "Dad, this isn't fair. You said that cheaters never win." My dad gave me that age-old line. He said, "Son, life isn't fair." And when we grew up on the state streets on the south side and we didn't have enough to eat some days, my dad would say, "Son, life isn't fair." And when I was born without the bones in my right leg formed correctly and my little brothers and sisters were running around and I couldn't because I had to get a Forrest Gump boot on my leg and by the age of 5 I could do it again. I could run with them. My dad would say, "Life isn't fair." But something broke in me that day at that baseball game. I decided to make life more fair for everyone. And I've been working hard since then to improve our city for everyone and improve fairness in our city government. I've got a master's degree in public administration. I served 6 years in the state house as a leader in the state legislature, and I've spent the last 6 years in our city government making our recorder of deeds office the most fair and the most accessible in our state. I can do that for the rest of City Hall, and I hope to earn your vote for mayor. My name again is Michael Butler. Our website is michaelbutler.org.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. The enormity of the number of questions that received tonight is really inspiring. I'm running for mayor because at the end of the day, St. Louis can do better. When I think about the purpose of a city government, what our CEO, what our mayor should be focused on, to me it's very simple. It's making the city a place people want to be, a place people can thrive, people want to stay. And I measure our success on how many people we have remaining. We've been losing population my entire lifetime. This is nothing new. But the speed at which we are losing population in the last 4 years is new. We are losing population faster than almost anywhere in the United States. And it's almost exclusively coming out of North St. Louis. And it's easy to see why people are complaining. Potholes, trash, ice, a failure to remove ice for weeks at a time on our streets. Okay? It's easy to see that people don't feel safe. But at the end of the day, our communities have lost faith in our city government. And it's easy to see why. The corruption coming out of our building division, the SLDC, the quagmire of a once-in-a-lifetime set of ARPA funds that are largely still sitting there unspent, the lack of urgency in delivering basic city services to our residents is inexcusable. We don't have 4 more years to wait. If I'm elected mayor, we are going to get serious about doing the job of being a city and making St. Louis a place people want to be.
Thank you for your time. One last quick bit of information, so don't feel you need a full minute. We're going to bring our organizers back out here for a minute. But the voters here might want to know, Mr. Jones, which voters or which groups are endorsing you. If you can just tell us quickly which groups are endorsing each of your campaigns. We'll go through just so folks know who's with whom.
Well, who's endorsing me? I would say that people are endorsing me.
People.
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
I have been blessed to receive the endorsement from the Young Democrats of St. Louis, the AFL-CIO of Missouri, Higher Heights PAC of America. Emily's List has also endorsed me. As you said tonight earlier, President Megan Green has also endorsed me.
Recorder Butler.
I was happy today to receive the endorsement of the 6th Ward Democrats, the only candidate to get more than 50% for the 6th Ward, most progressive ward in our city. State Representative Marty Murray has been an endorser of mine, and State Representative Keisha Bowsey are endorsements that I'm very happy for.
And Alderwoman.
While many of the endorsements still aren't in, I'm proud to have the endorsement of the AFL-CIO local chapter. I have also enjoyed the endorsement of the 13th Ward, our northernmost ward in the city of St. Louis, as well as the St. Louis Firefighters Local 73.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, our hosts, Darius, Jeremiah, and Cameron, thank you so much for putting this on, and we'll turn it back over to you.
We're just so grateful for all of you guys being here today. The 100 Black Men is a community-based organization that strives for our fourth future, which is education, health and wellness, economic empowerment, and mentoring, which is our community service arm. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to our president of Harris-Stowe State University Collegiate Chapter.
On behalf of the Collegiate 100 here for Harris-Stowe State University, we want to thank Dr. LaTanya Collins-Smith for allowing us to host this event. Where is she? And thank you, everybody, for coming out today. I'm going to leave it over to our President, Jeremiah.
Thank you, Cameron. I just want to thank the candidates, our incumbent Mayor Tishaura Jones. Thank you for coming. Mr. Jones, Recorder of Deeds, Michael Butler, and Alderman Spencer. Thank you all for coming. Like Darius said, we are a mentoring organization, so I would be remiss if I didn't ask all our Collegiate 100 in the room to please stand and be recognized. And remain standing. Remain standing. And I also have to thank the brothers for 100 Black Men. If you are a brother, 100 Black Men, please stand and be recognized.